हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आप सभी का हमारे चैनल इग्नो सेंटर पर। तो दोस्तों, आज का जो समरी है वो समरी है आपका रिवर बाय AK रामानुजन। और ये वीडियो में हम आपको ये समरी के फुल रिटर्न्स नोट्स देने वाले हैं। तो दोस्तों, अगर आप हमारे चैनल के साथ नए जुड़े हैं तो चैनल को ज़रूर सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिएगा और लाइक और कमेंट करना ना भूलिएगा। तो दोस्तों, बढ़ते हैं हमारी समरी की ओर। रिवर बाय AK रामानुजन। A River by AK Ramanujan is a four-stanza poem that is separated into an even set of lines. The first stanza contains 16 lines, the second 11, the third 7, and the fourth 15. They do not follow a specific rhyme scheme, but they are movements of repetition which help create rhythm. Most clearly, there is a refrain that is used in the second stanza and the fourth, and is only slightly changed. The speaker describes what happened during this particular flood and then restates the same thing. This works in two ways. First, to emphasize the loss, but at the same time, it is also desensitizing the reader. One comes to expect tragedy, as those who reside in the city do, and see it another aspect of the flood or drought. So friends, you have to write the first paragraph which I read yet. And now, poetic technique in a river. Ramanujan also used a variety of poetic techniques such as alliteration, assonance, consonance, and enjambment to unify the text. Alteration occurs when words are used in succession or at least appear close together and begin with the same letter. Assonance and consonance are other form of repetition in which a vowel or consonant sound is used multiple times. In words which close in proximity, a few of these are noted with the body of the text. Enjambment is another important technique. This occurs when a line is cut off before its natural stopping point. It forces a reader down to the next line and the next quickly. One is forced to move forward in order to comfortably resolve a passage or sentence. A great example is between line 4 and 5, in which a reader has to move down a line to find out what summer brings. All of these techniques contribute to the speaker tone. It fluctuates back and forth between disappointed, analytical, and even light-hearted at times. So friend, from here you can read the full summary notes. So both the two paragraph which I read here was also important for you all because it give you more marks or more better understanding of the summary. So let's move to the summary of A River. A River by AK Ramanujan describes how poets of the past and present have romanticized a river in Madurai. The poem begins with the speaker stating that every year every poet sings the same song about the sometimes flooding and sometimes empty river. When it is empty, all its hidden items are exposed. The poet have always sung about this period and the other in which the flood happens, but they don't get into the detail of who is impacted. In the Next stanza, the speaker relays the words of the citizens of this area as they describe what happened this year. Houses were washed away, as were two cows and a woman who thought she was pregnant with twins. The speaker described the old and new poets for not caring enough to look deeper into the environment. So this was the summary of the poem, and now we move on to analysis the stanza one by one. And now we begin with stanza 1. In the first stanza of this piece, the speaker begins by setting the scenes. He is going to be described how the city of Madurai is described by poets. It is a place that is made up of temples and poets, and these poets have always sung on the same thing. Every summer in the city, the river basin is emptied. The river dries to a trickle and the sand is buried. The shape and the object that are revealed are dark and somewhat ominous. There are sand ribs and straws and woman hair. These things clog up the water gates made of rusty bars. Ramanujan makes use of consonants in these lines with the repetition of the G sound. Rhythm is also created through the use of reuse of the word sand in lines 6 and 7. Then in general the reception of words beginning of S or words that carry the S sound. This is especially true for the first half of the stanza. Everything about the drainage system is old and in need of repair. The bridge is in patches, a fact that is revealed when the water recedes. In the last line of this stanza, Ramanujan used two metaphors to compare the stone to animal. The wet ones appear like crocodiles, sleeping and the dry as louding water buffaloes. Despite all of this, the poets only sang of the floods. There is so much more to the city that the poets are ignoring. Stanza 2, the second stanza of a river is only 11 lines. The he is the first line is a reference to a poet, perhaps the speaker himself. He states that he was only in the city for a day. It is in this stanza that a number of the more complicated and personal details are revealed. The details were not hidden, they were easily learned by the poet features in this stanza. Everywhere the people spoke about the flood and the terrible things which resulted. It is not just a simple natural occurrence. It carried off three village houses as well as a pregnant woman and a couple of cows. The cows have named mainly making these lines lighter in tone than some of the other. The least like way in which this section of the poem is conveyed make it clear that these are not uncommon occurrences. The people are used to them. Stanza 3. The problem that the speaker has with poet is made clear in the third stanza of A River, as he speaks of the similarities between old poets and new poets. Both spoke about the floods, yet ignored the tragedy which resulted. In fact, to make it worse, the new poets copy what the old one did. There was no evolution in style or subject. In the fifth and sixth line of this section, the speaker stated that it is possible that the woman who died was going to give birth to twins, increasing the life lost. This is a very interesting contrast to the flooding of the river in the first place. The water are meant to fertilize the land and make it possible for the next crop to grow. Life is destroyed as it is being created. Stanza 4. In the final stanza, the speaker relays the words of poet again. He said that the poet complained of how the river has water enough to be poetic, or about only once a year. It is only once a year that the poet pay attention to it, and even then they don't want to speak about the loss of property or life. The speaker repeats a section of the second stanza again, restating what was lost. There are additional details added. Now he says that the woman believed she was expecting identical twins. They were going to be perfectly the same, with no way to tell them apart except through dressing them in colored diapers. This is another humorous line, but it has a darker undertone. It speaks to the lack of care with which the poets approach the land and people. There is no desire to know who these people are or quest to adequately depict their suffering. So friend, till here your summary was finished, and if you like the video, please join the conversation by commenting on our video, and please give a thumbs to our video so that we get encouraged to make more video like this, and subscribe the bell icon so that you never miss the update. Thank you.